We have over 800, I think, roughly, in whole India. When it comes to Coupa employment, only the India location. You don't need humans anymore to run a bid or a tender. What? And this is exactly what the agents today are doing. If you have a wonderful Salesforce agent negotiating, oh wow, yes. So this is, you touch my dream.
Good evening. Coupa, the total spend platform with a community-generated $8 trillion data set, just flipped procurement from dashboards to decisions made by AI agents. No tickets, no spreadsheets, no swivel chair workflows, just intent to outcome across sourcing, suppliers, inventory, contracts, and payables. Clearly, it's actually a new operating model for how companies buy, pay, and move goods. Coupa's Navi agent portfolio plugs into the entire spend life cycle. So say, compare Q4 bids, flag risks, and generate a contract draft for the winner, end quote. Navi pulls supplier data, evaluates bids, drafts the contract, and routes approvals in one flow. Coupa isn't fighting for screen space. It's actually fighting for agent priority inside your enterprise stack. Interfaces don't matter when the interface is language. Coupa's Clarity 2.0 makes AI the front end. Faster insights to Coupa Navi, actions consistent UX across sourcing, invoicing, inventory zero hunting for modules. Ask, act, audit. The app layer collapses into intent. The analytics agent, conversational analytics, richer whiz, reports 100% faster. The bid evaluation agent, instant side-by-side supplier scoring. Request creation agent turns messy attachments to clean requisitions. The knowledge agent in CSO guides complex sourcing like a co-pilot, not co-pilots on a sidebar. Orchestrators across the stack. A network of 10 million plus buyers and suppliers gets brains. Auto invoice to CSP from supplier systems. Kill duplicate entry. Supplier managed inventory plus buyer generated delivery scheduling. Basically, new payments hub. Liquidity dashboards, cash flow intelligence, cleaner supplier profiles to faster onboarding, fewer errors. The chain stops reacting. It starts anticipating with Coupa contracts for agent force. Sales can generate, summarize, and track contracts inside Salesforce. Zero tab hopping, zero rekeying. So basically, the quotes become contracts, contracts become policy. Coupa's acquisition of Scout B wires AI supplier discovery into the network. Find, vet, and onboard partners with real-time enrichment and LLM machining. Ariba digitized sourcing. Coupa is automating judgment. $421 billion processed May to July 25. $14 billion customer savings in the quarter, nearly 3,100 organizations on platform. New logos include NVIDIA, Marriott, Honeywell, CoreWeave, Gap. Global roadshows with customer outcomes. Lint, Worth, AB InBev, Westpac. Clearly, this is actually a margin math. And why does this matter? Because tariffs change overnight. Ports stall, weather hits. Winners simulate, decide, and execute in minutes, not months. So basically, make the unpredictable predictable, end quote. This was said by Salvatore Lombardo, who is the CPO and CTO, Coupa Procurement. Just moved from back office to profit office. So from compliance cop to capital allocator. And joining us today is Salva Lombardo, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Coupa, the AI native platform powering the future of enterprise spend and global trade. So today at Coupa, Salva actually leads the vision behind its autonomous spend management network built on an $8 trillion community data set and a network of 10+ million buyers and suppliers. So under his leadership, Coupa is actually pioneering agentic procurement, where AI agents orchestrate sourcing, supplier discovery, contract execution, liquidity decisions, and inventory collaboration in real time. And he joins us today to decode Coupa's biggest leap yet, which is AI agents that turn procurement from a workflow into an autonomous intelligence system, powering global trade with speed, trust, and resilience. A big welcome to you, Salva. How are you doing on Front Page? We are very thrilled to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, actually. And, greetings from Hyderabad. I just arrived in our wonderful India office here in Hyderabad. And thank you for having me. And and by the way, very nice introduction. You hit every important pillar of our strategy. So wonderful. Thank you.
Good. Now I'm not nervous. Neither are you. I'm hoping that you've had your biryani and we can get on with the conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'd like to actually start off with this, Salva, which everyone is calling, the agentic revolution in enterprise procurement. So would love to hear, how would you define this?
Well, revolution, I guess it's a wonderful word, actually, because it is a revolution, maybe a very positive one, obviously, but it is disrupting. And I describe this, from two aspects. First of all, I see AI, and especially at Coupa, we see this as the possibility to leapfrog us into the next era of technology. This is so important that everybody realizes it, that app and SaaS companies and how they are today won't, from my point of view, exist anymore in 2, 3, 4 years in the same manner. I'm so convinced from that, and that's why it is a revolution. And you are hitting the right word for that. And as I said, the second is the disruption. With this, you should not just try to reimagine the same. You should try to really revolutionize what you have done and rethink how AI can solve the same flow or problem on a new way. And this is what I'm trying with my teams together to get Coupa into the AI company there. So that's how I understand revolution.
Yeah. Very interesting, and I think you've hit the right note, which actually brings me to this, Salva, which is the strategic shift. So procurement software historically actually digitized forms and approvals, as we know. Now Coupa is launching autonomous spend management, where AI agents handle sourcing, approvals, and supplier workflows. So first off, what changed? Was this always Coupa's vision, or did the combination of frontier AI, supply chain shocks, and an $8 trillion in anonymized spend data make autonomy inevitable?
Yeah, that's so to the point. I think, to the word change. I was thinking myself through it. What is really different from the past, and there is such a clear differentiation. Coupa always sitting on this amount of data, we always use those data, obviously, to automate, to do recommendations, to do the classical, I would say, AI methodics of the past, which was a more dynamic, intelligent rule engine. This is how we use the data, and we recommended, like, hey, your average time of approval in your company is 10, you are overdue by 7 days. What about if you would approve now? This phase where AI-driven recommendation to the right place, which was nice, and it is super nice, but how can this get ever autonomously when you think about flows? Now, when I then saw and put on top the AI motion, the difference is that the technology today with LLMs, we are using agnostic, all LLM models. We are fitting the best in what we want to solve, plus learning on private space data and based on our conditions, configuration, data points, which are clean data and not needing to up. Still, with this combination, it made it possible, from my point of view, that now AI is the real autonomous way, because agents now can really act as humans would have done. And this is where you see yourself. I mean, let's be very honest. I mean, I'm using Gemini, ChatGPT, the Bing engine here. I'm using this, I don't know, maybe 30% of my time already. So the accuracy is very great for very easy questions there. And I'm convinced that the same is happening in the autonomous world of Coupa. And this is why we did it. So the AI is the difference, that with this, I can really get autonomous.
Interesting. Okay, fair. So the agentic architecture, which actually logically brings me to that point then, Salva, which is Coupa's Navi agents operate inside the spend and supply chain data plane, evaluating bids, generating requisitions, onboarding suppliers, and of course, managing inventory signals. So this actually flips the model. AI doesn't assist procurement, it actually executes it with humans supervising.
Correct.
So how does this architectural shift, Salva, from workflows to autonomous orchestration, redefine enterprise procurement and, supply chain design? Also, what does it mean for risk compliance and auditability at scale?
Yeah, and you had lots of very interesting aspects in your question too. So first thing, from workflow to orchestration, this is a very important part of your question. This is the difference. People were telling me like, hey, I can pull AI on top of everything and it works. So what is the magic? And I think you just put it in. The magic is, if you want really an AI execution agent and a solution agent, you can't just pull data on top. Then it's a knowledge agent. You can ask questions, analytic questions, whatever, but you can't orchestrate, have a multi-agent communication, and have the agent solving your flow. The only way on doing it is when you rip out your workflow of the past, 20 years ago it was invented, whenever, and rip in or pull in the orchestration AI. So basically the agents sitting now in and understand when to act based on what their intelligence is of this workflow. That's the main difference when you talk about that part. Now, business talk, because you mentioned what is the difference in risk management and supplier management. Basically, this is, if you now have this in mind, think of a risk sensing of suppliers, which we do today, meaning an agent scanning the whole time what is happening with my unique preferred suppliers, and then giving this signal into the multi-agent platform and saying like, hey, I sensed a risk, what do we do? Agents talk with each other and make recommendation to the human then to say like, hey, we sensed a risk in that supplier. We have those recommendations for you. We can act on your behalf if you let us act. And then they get a recommendation of, change the supply chain, order somewhere else, change the place of supply. So with this is the change of having agents in your workflow, basically included in your platform, then having a knowledge agent somewhere on top, orchestrating on top, which will never help you in the application flow and execution. So that's the difference.
Fairly wonderfully explained, Salva, the fact that the seamless orchestration is actually what makes it possible to make sure that at scale it is functioning and it's functioning perfectly, which actually then is the logical next step, which is the economics and the value. So traditionally, procurement value meant savings and compliance, but with autonomous procurement, the value equation actually expands to this, which is working capital optimization, supplier resilience, fraud prevention, simulation and scenario planning, cycle time compression. So how do CFOs and CPOs rethink return on investment in the agentic procurement era, and where do you see the biggest profit and loss impact first?
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome question. So first, CFOs. By the way, CFOs and CPOs partly actually have other views on this. I guess you know this.
Would you like to maybe just share something with us that would actually help our viewers understand in terms of how they're consuming it?
Yeah, I will. And I, just because of your question, I was like triggered just recently from a CFO, which was obviously much more looking at cost efficiency, especially in some areas of our world, cost down is a much more initiative. So you see CFOs globally, of course, looking much more at cost down, also depending a little bit what they own in their organization. But cost down is a very, very quick and efficient way for CFOs with Coupa and with spend management, obviously, to control and get it efficient. So to your point, that's the history of Coupa, and it will be the future. CFOs look at that very, very often. What CPOs though do, they do look at cost just because it's in their nature. But the beautiful thing of the CPO mind is, hey, it's not just cost. There are like a ton of other decision criteria whenever I go and understand to make that business resilient. So meaning I want a business which is stable, and CPOs often now need to do the balance between what is my right supplier? Do I spend maybe a little more, but having on a long term maybe an even better TCO? And you always, and this is it's an interesting thing where I had an interview with another, great, podcasts and other areas which we are talking. It was in Europe, and he said to me, like, Salva, is this like, do we put now price tags on risk? And this is exactly the way on how you should see it. Costs are not just the material classical costs. We need to change that risk is becoming a cost factor as a price tag on whatever you buy. And risk is just an example. It can be sustainability, it can be carbon, all the ESG stuff of the world. It can be resilient in which location do you invest. We need to add price tags to everything. And this is where Coupa is strong on helping you understanding the decision frame for this frame. So that's why I distinguish between CFO, a little bit more oriented on cost down, so to say, and CPOs much more on, hey, where do I need to put price tags for having a cost down, but with a little bit longer term view, because they need also to ensure stability. Yeah. So that's how I would see that. Yeah. Helpful?
So Salva, absolutely helpful, which actually, if I were to sum up what you just mentioned, is the fact that one is, of course, the direct cost aspect, and then probably what you're also alluding to is the value add, which is maybe the indirect cost, which is not seen as tangibly, but probably has a bigger impact as one keeps going along with it. I hope I summarized it well.
No, totally.
I hope I understood it.
And absolutely, and call them also partly also opportunity costs, right? If you want to, if you want to add a price tag, you need also opportunity costs to be calculated in. So if I miss, what do I miss if I don't do it, or what do I have as risk if I do it, and what could happen, and then calculate them in.
Yeah. Fair enough. Which actually then brings us to this point, which is the trust, risk, and the governance aspect, Salva, which is procurement touches contracts, payments, supplies, compliance, and risk controls. So when AI agents actually start making recommendations or execute actions, how does Coupa ensure these aspects, which is transparency and audit trails, bias-free supplier decisions, defensible governance, regulatory comfort for, let's say, BFSI, manufacturing, and public sector? So how do enterprises build board-level trust in autonomous systems?
Yeah, and I think it's two aspects of this. There is the data security aspect. It is, and it is the how to build trust. I distinguish this in two persona groups. The one are the executives in a company. The executive in company are much more interested in data security than necessarily why should I trust the recommendations or whatever the agents do, because they are much more concerned on this. Hey, if I bring now agents in, who is seeing the data? Is my price going out? Is, all of love that aspect. This is solved by Coupa very elegantly, because what we do is we have private spaces. Those private spaces are very secured environments per tenant, per customer, and also where our LLMs learn. If they learn on our data, but anonymized, and also on a very high granular level that you never can connect anything with any data from a specific persona. With this, we make with the 8 trillion transactions, the agents, 8 trillion data transactions and spend, we make the agents intelligent, but still in a very secured and anonymized way that nothing can happen that we connect to certain data pools. So that's the, and then obviously all the, certifications and everything we have and are very secure. They're also for governments. We are running, for example, FedRAMP environments for US customers, which is a very, very high security environment. So that's the security part. And the second is the trust and building, believing that what Navi, it's our agent, so what the agents are answering and the skills. And this is we do in 2 aspects. One, we are very transparent where those data pools are coming from. This is basically common way in the market. In the meanwhile, you see in Gemini, you see in ChatGPT, wherever, when you click on and say like, hey, where do you have this information on? All of this will happen. But we do a second thing, which is super important. We do ourselves proof point before we deliver against golden data sets, meaning we are creating a golden data set where the agent is not allowed to work or to communicate if and being delivered in a live environment, productive environment, if the golden data set has not an occurrence of 90 or more percent.
Okay.
And this is where we are. And this golden data set is a very, very, very clear and clean data set. So the answers there are 100% correct. And this is where we prove and test our agents. With this, the hallucination is very low. And we are also giving a kind of a percentage how accurate our answer is, just because it's based on the golden data set. So that's how we try and do build trust at our customer base. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Because, I mean, you're adding another layer, Salva, which is, of course, giving everyone a sense of ease and confidence moving forward. Network advantage.
Yeah.
The $8 trillion in anonymized spend intelligence. 10 million plus suppliers, real-time community benchmarking. Those are fabulously encouraging figures. ScoutBee acquisition for AI supplier discovery. So how much of Coupa's advantage comes not just from, let's say, software, Salva, but from network intelligence and community data flywheels? And does this make procurement the next network effects industry, similar to payments and cloud?
Yeah, it is a yes. It makes us the next network effect, and absolutely yes. I'm more than I don't know. Convinced is already the wrong word. I'm sure it is the next network effect company. It is very obvious that we are the next to disrupt this. And I always compare this, by the way, with for example the Uber effect in the transportation, or the LinkedIn effect when it came to bringing together recruiter or experts to meet, and just because there is an unfair advantage we have, which is we build a beautiful buyer product with a network of already suppliers existing, which are operationally working with the buyers. So in itself, you would not be allowed to call it network, because it can only call it network as the network effect definition. It's also called the platform effect definition when on both sides value is created, right? So buyer has value. And in other words, if the supplier comes because they find value in the Coupa environment, and they are not coming because the buyer called and said like, hey, can you give me your risk certificate? Or can you give me a quote for a material? But they come because they find business, or because the ease of use, like invoice upload, is so easy instead of sending it on another way, that I'm creating value. With creating value, the network effect kicks in. And this is why I believe so much, because with the invests in the supplier I'm doing at the moment on supplier offerings, valuable offerings, independent from the buyer calling, I'm seeing already the effect of suppliers searching for getting a profile in the network, Coupa network done, and getting a profile enhanced, like a storefront, to be found and to be discovered. And now with this, I'm handing over to ScoutBee, because ScoutBee is exactly that. ScoutBee grew. It's a wonderful team and wonderful company, I need to say. ScoutBee grew in the space of making the supplier value big by giving them the chance to present themselves with a wonderful profile, and then a discovery functionality. They can do either, everybody can search, you can be supplier or buyer, but also the discovery cluster can be now and will be integrated into all our buyer functionality, that in every place you find the supplier. So this is where ScoutBee helps me to, to accelerate the strategic direction. Yeah.
Just very interesting as a strategy, to be honest, Salva, that fact that you're creating a holistic ecosystem in a big way. And both sides tend to benefit from the value addition that you're bringing to the table, which is fascinating. And you're going to keep tapping in the supplier side because, well, let's be honest, that is nice and sweet.
Wonderful.
The companies will, the customers will automatically like to blend in. It makes sense. Absolutely makes sense.
And you know, the beauty is also, see, we have 10 million once transacted suppliers in the network. We have a ton of active suppliers at the moment which are basically also asking and saying like, hey, what value can you deliver me more than just getting into your network and doing, you know, the operational, and this is, you know, this effect is only working in a network effect if both sides have value.
Fairly interesting. Of course, you have enjoyed your visit to Hyderabad till now, and I'm pretty sure that is going to be the tonality and the case, which of course brings me to the India aspect. India is entering an AI plus supply chain plus procurement renaissance, Salva, from DPI, rails and UPI to now manufacturing expansion and sovereign cloud. So Coupa already powers well India-rooted operations of global companies like Flipkart, UiPath, and more. Where do you see agentic procurement taking off first in India? Is it going to be, let's say, BFSI, manufacturing, retail, logistics? Who leads, according to you? And what role does India play in Coupa's global innovation roadmap?
Yeah. Let me start with the latter one, because that's so obvious. Just being here, we have over 800, I think, roughly, in whole India. When it comes to Coupa employment, only the India location, it is for us so important. And the beauty is, I just had an all hands and an or a town hall and an ask me anything session, and it was all about AI. I like it, right? So this is where you can measure how much there are in. So that's why my absolute take is the immense motivation, and this is, by the way, the beauty of Indian culture. If empowerment comes and they are empowered to build agents to do, you know, the right thing because they are very experienced, then also the beautiful outcome in the product comes, because then it's really so much cultural established in India that you really get things then done, and not, you know, over PhD things. And this is so beautiful. This is why I like India as a location to win, and, you know, and continuing growing big here and hiring just for the AI motion for itself anyway. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, where do I see this in the Indian market disrupting first? It's difficult though to say and to be very clear there, because I see, and I agree with you, the AI motion is big. In India. We see this everywhere. I'm following this a lot. But honestly, I think there will be two areas where disruption is first, especially in the Indian. The one thing is the small ERP needs for small and mid-market areas are easier to solve. So meaning a Coupa mid-market solution, which we have and you can implement, is with an AI on top, is much more quicker to be implemented in a small organization, because you don't have an IT, right? So you are like, I don't know, maybe 200,000 people, and you can implement with an AI much quicker because you have basically an agent, maybe a few menus and modules, and then you run your spend, right? So that's why I think from a segment perspective, those segments are the first, and you know India better than I.
Yeah.
This is the whole motion of India. When you segment the market, there is so much SME, so much. So that's why segmentation on that part, independent from industry, will be the first, because I think the bigger will be difficult. And then second, I personally think it's more the logistic and transportation, because the flows in these spaces, especially because India is not that regulated in that spaces than other countries, will be the first being disrupted by AI. That would be my guess at the moment in India. But yeah, and I think governmental, public, bigger manufacturing, they are, they depend very often from big export. A little bit more difficult, but logistic, transportation, retail, all of that space, that will be disrupted earlier. That would be my take in India, at least. Yeah.
And I think it is the correct take, to be honest, Salva, because you've hit the nail on the head, especially the kind of volume you're dealing with in those industries. As far as the 200 to 1000, like you just mentioned. Wow, the volume you're looking at is huge. Yeah. So, well, best of luck. That is the sweet spot. The enterprise AI stack. So we are watching a stack form, let's say community spend intelligence, network-based supplier data, autonomous sourcing and payments, simulation engines, trust and audit control plane, conversational UI, replacing workflows. So, Salva, is Coupa building the AI operating model for global trade and enterprise spend? And how does this actually redefine competition versus ERPs and legacy procurement suites?
Yeah, well, that's a very, very big question, though. But because we could spend hours on that. The short answer is Coupa is taking at least a good portion of the ERP market out, which is the spend market, right? So you know that ERP is purchasing, financing, manufacturing, production. Coupa is taking that out, and the future of ERPs, from my absolutely view now, 22 years in the market of tech software and ERP and purchasing, I tell you, the one ERP motion end to end, that time is over, because you will never disrupt when you are that big, good enough in the vertical. And from my point of view, the beautiful thing is you need to have, as a company, 3-4 big companies which manage your area, like one financial, one spend, maybe manufacturing and production, and then having those agents orchestrating very well together. And you should not look at one UI on top, because which persona is running a purchasing event and doing your ledger also? That's different personas. So you need just to make sure that they are all running data consistent on one platform, which is possible, which is then the AI agents talking with each other on a wonderful master data management. So this is where I would see the future of ERPs, and where we as Spend and Navi, with Navi, also our agent, can disrupt at least the purchasing and the global trade with our network. And don't forget, on the other side of the network is basically a quote to cash system, like a Salesforce, right? This is where we want to, or will connect, or are already. We have AI agents on Salesforce Agent Force, which are connecting into our network and then talking to Coupa. So this is basically closing this trade environment. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Salva, before actually I let you go, I need to obviously ask you this in terms of the fact that scale, how are you looking at that in terms of the fact that Coupa's community dataset is now one of the most powerful anonymous commercial datasets on the planet?
Yes.
So do you imagine a future where AI agents negotiate across networks autonomously?
Yes.
Suppliers and buyers both represented by AI, and how close are we to fully autonomous, which is, let's say, source to contract, to procure, to pay, to reconcile, with humans just and only supervising exceptions?
Wow. Yes. So this is, you touch my dream. Good question for the end. Yes.
Yeah.
So of course, I believe in this. And actually, I see this already. If you look at very easy commodities when it comes of IT equipment, or even office material, just as a very, very easy category, you don't need humans anymore to run a bid or a tender.
Fair.
And this is exactly what the agents today are doing. If you have a wonderful Salesforce agent negotiating, let's say Salesforce would be your your seller system, and you have a buyer system, which those two agents can start communicating. Your only thing as buyers need to do is to say the moment when you need something. And even this can be automated by just having a replacement and inventory replenishment. So meaning that agents with easy communities, that's a very thing. We are anyway launching this in Jan with one of the agents, our tender agent. So that's super easy. I believe, and this is the point you just made, I believe this is much bigger, which we will one day only act, the agents will only act on our behalf. And this is where autonomous then becomes a reality. Where the agents are making recommendations for even more sophisticated parts, like negotiating contracts, running complex sourcing events with many multiple sub-items, getting and purchasing in a scheduling agreement by calling into the production environment. So this is all autonomous way where suppliers then and buyers can get connected in the network and have a collaboration agent on it. So I'm a big believer of this, and the network effect is just around the corner. I'm pushing the team to this, and I know that this will go into big heights. Yeah.
Very, very intriguing, Salva. Very intriguing. And of course, wishing that your dream, as you just mentioned, turns into reality as soon as possible. Of course, wishing you and your team all the best. I do understand that you have a very urgent meeting that you need to attend. It was truly a pleasure having you with us on Front Page today. We sure hope that, and we look forward to having you back with us again to explore so many other aspects.
Absolutely, for sure. And so much thank you for that. And so you bet. I will tell you when I'm back in town, and we can have this again. Maybe an update on where we are.
That'll be wonderful. That truly would be.
And thank you so
all
much.
The best.
Yeah, this for you too. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Salva. And of course, he did speak about so many wonderful things. The fact that he's enthused, the fact that he's extremely excited about the way in India we are accepting this entire movement, and he's thrilled that we are embracing it with open arms. We said, well, Agentic Enterprise was coming. Coupa just shipped it to procurement. Now the same AI that actually chats can source, score, schedule, and settle end to end. The user interface race is over. The agent race is on. Coupa goes agentic. The prompt to purchase era, well, is here.